In this video, we'll cover the different input channels that are available to us and how to use the different controls that are found on the Sonifex S2 input channel strips. An audio input is a device which captures or plays back sound. In the radio studios, this includes microphones, telephones, CD players, music playout software from a PC, web contributors, and so on. As we mentioned in a previous video, an input channel on the S2 desk can be identified by the presence of a fader or slider towards the bottom of the channel strip. The white label at the bottom of the channel identifies the input source that's connected to it. You'll notice that the mic channel strips have colour-coded faders which correspond to the colour of the softies on each mic. Here's a list of the available input channels in each studio. Don't worry if you're not sure on any of the names because we'll be covering each one throughout these videos. The most basic principle with input channels on the S2 desk is that you press the on button at the bottom, which illuminates in red, and then push up or open the fader, usually to its highest position, which turns the button green. In normal setups, if an audio signal is present for that channel, then it'll be heard on your program output broadcast and audio recording on the PC, and also through your headphones and speakers. However, we don't always recommend that you adopt this simple approach as soon as you get into the studio. Instead, a good practice would be to preview the sound heard on an input channel using the pre-fade listen function, or PFL for short. As the studio operator, this allows you to listen or preview an input channel and make any adjustments before you make it live. To preview any channel, press the QPFL button just above the fader. You'd usually do this with the channel faded down or closed so the audience can't hear it, but you can do it live as well if, for example, you're midway through an interview. The button will illuminate green to indicate that PFL is active, and your headphones or speakers will stop outputting any channels on program output, switching over to PFL mode. This allows you to temporarily focus on the selected channel without interrupting the program output of your broadcast. So don't be concerned if you can't hear your program, because this is just a temporary preview and your audience will still hear your program output. On the top left side of the S2 desk, you'll see two PPM meters, or peak program meters, which allow us to measure the level of an audio signal. The left meter measures the left output channel and the right meter measures the right. On the scale, if the needle stays at 0, then there's no signal, whereas any movements away from 0 indicate that an audio signal is present. For voice sources, such as microphones, telephones, or web contributors, you want to aim for a level somewhere around 5 and 6 on the PPM meter. And for music, you're aiming for somewhere between 4 and 5. You can adjust the signal strength of any input channel using the trim control, which is about halfway up the channel strip. The trim control is available on every input channel and is set to 0 by default, which means that the audio signal going into the channel is the same as the signal that goes out. This is often referred to as unity gain. To boost the signal strength, turn the trim control clockwise towards +10, and to cut, turn it anti-clockwise towards -10. Remember to keep checking the PPM meters to get that needle between 5 and 6 for voice and 4 and 5 for music. If you're testing a mic signal, now's a good time to do a quick check 1 2. Oh, and don't forget to use your headphones. Exit PFL mode once you've finished previewing the channel, and once you're done, your headphones and speakers will revert back to outputting your program audio. If you want to, you can preview more than one channel at the same time. Just press whichever QPFL buttons you need. All input channels also have a balance control, which is labelled as BAL pan and is just below the trim control. This can shift the input channel signal between the left and right outputs, boosting the signal at the desired location and cutting the signal at the opposite channel. This is useful if you've got mismatched left and right signals from an input channel, which can happen from time to time but isn't that common. Use your PPM meters to gauge the balance. By default, it should be set in the middle at 0. Some input channels give the option to apply equalization into the signal. Equalization, or EQ, can be used to adjust the tone of a signal by changing different audio frequencies. You'll commonly come across EQ in some consumer items like TVs and hi-fi systems, with common terms such as bass, middle, and treble. Bass controls the low frequencies, middle controls the mid-range frequencies, and treble controls the highs. On the S2 desk, you have two EQ parameters, HF for high frequencies and LF for low frequencies. Turning each of these controls clockwise will boost the separate frequencies, and anti-clockwise will cut. If you're using EQ, make sure you've activated it by pressing the EQ button. This should highlight in a yellowy orange colour. Again, these should be set to 0 by default. At the top of every input channel strip you'll see two buttons, PGM and AUD. These indicate the output routing status of a channel strip to the program and audio buses. The program bus is essentially your program output, so what your audience will hear. The audio bus is routed to the PC, so this determines what's recorded from the mixing desk into the PC. We'll discuss how to record audio later on. In general operation, these buttons should always be active for every input, which is indicated by a green light. So, when you activate a channel strip with the on button and raise the fader, it'll be routed to your program output bus and the audio recording bus on the PC. Switching off the program and audio buttons will prevent that channel strip to be heard by your audience or recorded into the PC. In this lesson, we've discussed the different input channels that are available to us and how to use the different controls that are found on a Sonifex S2 input channel strip. Next up, we'll learn how to adopt a good microphone technique.